to a brand new video, and today we are here for a little bit of a different video. Now this was a race I recorded back, I think it was actually on the release day of F1 2017. Now obviously I'd already had the game for a week at this point, so I wasn't really too worried about hopping back over to F1 2016 for one night's worth of action. But we are here for the URL Race of Champions. Now, I never actually did any racing in this league before this day. They asked me to join to be sort of a special guest, make a little bit of a video out of it as well, and sort of just, it is almost like a little bit of an invite only, see what I can do sort of thing. And I thought to myself, I haven't really league raced on F1 2016 in a couple of weeks. It would be quite nice to go back to it and sort of give it, one final hurrah, if you will. And I decided, yeah, let's go for it. Give these guys a little bit of exposure as well. If you're interested in checking out some of their league highlights, I think I will try and leave a link to their channel down in the description, as well as their Twitter if you're looking to sign up to their next season's worth of racing. But we're on board with my fastest lap during qualifying here, and I really didn't sort of know how well I'd fare. I played a week of F1 2017 quite intensively, so to go back to F1 2016 was quite an odd feeling. I'm not going to lie. There was a couple of weird things where the steering sort of felt very light, but also oddly quite responsive, which I don't really get why, because F1 2017 cars are way more responsive. I guess that's just the way I had my F1 2016 wheel settings, like set up, if you will. My wheel on 2016 was so incredibly light, I could just chuck the car into every single corner. But coming through towards the end of my fastest lap during qualifying, the aim was to get pole position, but obviously I had no real idea about how well I'd fare on F1 2016. Felt this lap was fairly hooked up, fairly nice. It wasn't a perfect lap, easily another sort of second to find. I'd like to compare it to one of my AOR qualifying laps, but it did put me up into provisional pole at that moment in time during the session there, which I was quite happy with. But unfortunately, I've been dropped down to P2 once more a little while later. But moving on towards another actual run that I attempted to do right at the very end of qualifying here. You can see there's a few cars out on track there. I'm not really too sure what the man driver there. I think he was trying to give me slipstream down both straights, but it was a little bit off-putting. I'm not going to lie there. I can only thank him if that was his intentions there, but, personally, I like to sort of just race myself. You can see I'm miles up in at the purple once more there, but into the final sector, and unfortunately I completely sliced that part of the chicane, which obviously invalidated my lap. Not really too sure what the Force India was doing on the outside there either, but unfortunately there we go. P2 on the grid, ready for the URL Race of Champions here at Abu Dhabi. I've got Pro Glitcher just ahead of me there, who really, only just was able to out-qualify me there. Considering, I had another half a second in the bag on my final run, I was a little bit gutted that I wasn't able to get pole from that. But, life goes on, and I'm still looking forward to hopefully, having quite a good little race in this evening's action. I sort of would like to win, but, we'll have to wait and see as to what does happen. Abu Dhabi can be quite an odd track when it comes to safety cars, guys. But ready then, on the grid, ready for the URL Race of Champions here at Abu Dhabi. It's 5 lights on the grid, and it's lights out, and away we go there. Charlie Whiting wasted no time, and yellow flags are already out there, as someone has been disqualified from, I think it was a bit of a weird sort of the lights going out timing differently for everyone else there. But what it has meant, it was Pro Glitcher ran wide at turn 1, and I'm now in the lead of the race there. So, that gives me a couple of laps where I should be able to stay in the lead of the race, but I'm actually going to opt to dive into the pit lane here on the end of lap 1. Going to go onto a set of the soft tyres. Hopefully, a lot of drivers opt to go for the same strategy as me, so that I don't really end up in too much traffic, which based on the minimap, it sort of looked like a lot of drivers were opting to follow me onto this strategy. One of the first times as well, sort of on a bit of a side note here, that I've really used the Haas car on F1 2016. Sort of never really used it that much. Don't really know why. Sort of never just did any career modes with it or anything like that. But exiting the pit lane now, and it's looking like we're going to leave out in P6 at this moment in time there. So that's still, pretty decent position. Going to have to make a few places back up in the next phase of the Grand Prix, but it should leave me in a really strong position to effectively one-stop this race, if you will, if you don't really count the safety car. But after a couple other drivers opted to change their strategies, I found myself up into P4 of the race, and as the safety car comes in, the motorhead man ahead of me just isn't really keeping up to the rest of the field there, the top two. I sort of couldn't really afford, he just doesn't seem to go there. I'm not really too sure what that was all about. A couple of weird little incidents there, but I've come out in P4 in the end, P3 even, as someone does end up diving into the pit lane there. My teammate Sammy trying to look right around my outside down in towards turn 1 there, but unfortunately I tapped the curbs there, squeeze him out wide firm but fair, if you will, there. And I, didn't really want to hold him up too much here. I'm not really here to try and, like, prove myself. I'm sort of just here to have a bit of fun there. And, I don't really want to be overly aggressive when it comes to, fighting with other cars. I'd much rather make the finish in, say, P3 than try and, just be very, very aggressive for the race victory here. But moving on to the end of lap 6 of the race here. See, I'm closing in on NSX Legend and Pro Glitcher here. Neither of them have opted to make their pit stop yet. And, this is looking really, really ideal for myself at the moment. I'm feeling quite confident on this set of soft tyres here. And I could potentially drag them to, sort of about lap 20, lap 21, and then go on to a set of the supers, or probably not the ultra soft tyres. I'd be impressed if I was able to take them 8 laps at the end of the Grand Prix there. But you can see coming through the end of Sector 1 there, an NSX Legend trying to look down the inside of Pro Glitcher here. But unfortunately for me, I've got the slipstream glitch, and I'm pretty certain I did anyway at this point. Just no way was I gaining anything on either of them down this straight. In the end, I sort of started to close in, but there was a little bit of lag with that, as I think Pro Glitcher and NSX Legend also sort of were having a little bit of bugs with it. Quite a few drivers had unfortunately retired at the start of the race just due to a couple of lag starts and things, which unfortunately left a few drivers without front wings, and then a couple of disqualifications as well. But NSX Legend has not given up trying to get past Pro Glitcher yet. He's going to have a look down the inside in towards the next chicane in this big braking zone there. Parks it on the inside of him there, and a Pro Glitcher just about tries to keep it alongside here, and I'm just going to try and pounce on any opportunity I get. Pro Glitcher doesn't quite clip the apex there, runs a little bit wide over the curbs, and I'm going to try and have a look right around his outside through this triple right-hander here. What am I going to be able to do there? Unfortunately, I just decide to back out of it in the end there. Go for a bit of a switchback move there, but that unfortunately is not going to work out for myself there. All over the back of the McLaren Honda though, as we come through the final couple of corners here, and I'm all over the back of him, thinking about going for a move down the inside of the final corner there, but think better of it, as now you can see he dives it now down into the pit lane here, and now I've got to try and close up the gap to NSX Legend just up ahead of me here, and I'll have to wait and see how quickly, if I'm able to close up to him, because he might have just been held up behind Pro Glitcher there. But on to lap 8, 1 lap later in the Grand Prix, and the gap is coming down, and I'm feeling very, very confident. I'm getting back used to F1 2016 here. I've got to make sure I get the right name there, and coming through that S section, I'm closing in quite a lot on NSX Legend here, attacking the curbs as much as I can. You can see he's all over the place, just a little bit through the next couple of corners there, using first gear to try and get the turn in there, squeeze him out wide over the curbs there. He does get an ever so slightly better run than me, and now it's just trying to, either duck back into the slipstream or stay alongside of there. Opting, use a little bit of slipstream with the DRS as well. We're going to have a look down the inside, make sure we give him room as the track does thin out just a bit there, but down the inside we go of NSX Legend here. Sort of park it through the next part of the chicane there. He attacks the curbs too much and it slows himself down there a bit, so I'm now going to move up into the lead of the Grand Prix here, and hopefully for me, 20 laps to go in this race. These guys, most of them probably have got to go for a 2-stop race to the very end. And, I personally only have to make 1 more stop, so I'm feeling very, very confident at this moment in time. We will have to watch out for Pro Glitcher, as he is absolutely flying on his set of soft tyres. You can see he's about 17 and 18 seconds behind me as we skip onto lap 12 of the race. And now it was sort of about trying to make sure I'm getting good, decent laps. And as you can see, though, we are actually slowly pulling away from Pro Glitcher now as we move on to lap 18 of the race. But by lap 20, 21, it was time for my pit stop here. As you can see, just lapping a couple of cars there, and we are almost ready to come into the pits. We're actually going to use all 3 sets of tyres during this Grand Prix here, and it's quite nice, not to just be able to do a one-stop OP race like on F1 2017. But down into the pit lane we go, nearly running wide there, just about managing to get the crank lock back on as we dive it into the pit lane there. Make sure we get the car slowed down nice and early, don't want any penalties there. And now it's going to be tight to see if we can try and stay out ahead of Pro Glitcher here. We will have a slightly quicker run out of the pit lane there, but it's going to be quite tight here. I opted to go obviously onto a set of the Super Softs to take me to the end of the Grand Prix, and I can't see him on the mini-map at the moment here. There he is, just about appearing on your screens, and I'm definitely going to be able to come out ahead of him for the moment in time, guys. You can see he's coming through turn 1 now, and I'm already in turn 2 quite nicely here, so as long as I make no mistakes on this fresh set of tyres, I should be good and, happy, unless we end up seeing a late race safety car. But you can see the gap obviously just 3 seconds now, so I actually came out a little bit further ahead of him than I really thought I was going to be able to do so there. But now skipping on to lap 28 of the Grand Prix, it was quite a nice little sort of 8 lap stint, even if I can do maths to the end of the Grand Prix there, you know. Just obviously on the freshest set of quicker tyres, he actually opted to make one final pit stop in the Grand Prix as well. But through the final couple of corners we go on my, well, return, if you will, to F1 2016. We are going to come through the second to last corner, both final right-handers to win the URL Race of Champions. They're very, very happy with that result and just prove, you know, that I haven't lost it on F1 2016. But very, very happy there in the end to win that Grand Prix, able to take home the race victory 31 seconds ahead of Pro Glitcher there, so very, very happy. I can also only apologise just quickly as well, that I completely forgot to do an interview after the race with the guys there. I can only apologise for that, but Pro Glitcher came P2, NSX Legend in P3 there, AX Sammy in P4, Esrod Matthew in P5 there, so quite, you know, fun little race. If you are interested in league racing in URL, as I said, I will leave a link down in the description, guys, but I will see you all next time for a brand new video.